A very warm welcome to all of you in the teacher certification program by Vardhana. So let's start our session. I think all the participants have joined. So first of all, let's begin with the facilitated introduction. My name is Suman and I'm working as an education specialist in Vardhana, and I am hosting this session today. Before that, Ankur and Chiranjeev host the two sessions, but this session will be carried forward by me and my colleague Shweta. She will carry on from middle of the session. And as you know that after these four sessions, we are going to give certificates. You will get a certificate only when you complete 3 out of 4 sessions. So at least 3 sessions are mandatory. So please be there in the session. So first, so now let's take a quick recap of the previous session, which was about scaffolding. What is scaffolding? And you learned about the theory of, Vygotsky zone of proximal development theory, where you learned that you provide help to the students so that they can maximize their potential. Then you learned some practical tools and strategies like think, pair, share, modeling, and vocabulary. You can provide support to students by driving curiosity in the classroom by effective questioning techniques. And then you learn about how you can, do assessments and adjustment in your classroom to increase the productivity. So this was the recap of the previous session. Now, what will be the agenda points of today's session? We will be first introduce the session, then we will discuss some objectives, then we will make you understand about multimodal learning and diverse learners. Then we will be teaching you what will be the multimodal teaching modalities. We will be discussing modifying instructions and how can you design lesson plans, how can you assess multimodal learning effectiveness in your classroom. So these are the agenda points of today's session. So here is our topic. Integrating multimodal learning. How can you engage all senses of students in your classroom? So what will be the objectives of this session? You will be able to identify at the end of the session, what is diverse learner, what are their needs, how can you understand their needs, how can you modify instruction in the classroom to meet their needs, how can you design lesson plans, and how can you at the end assess the effectiveness of what you have learned and implemented in the classroom. So here is a question for you. It's not a question, it's an activity. You have to type as fast as you can do in the chat box. Okay, so first choice given to you is coffee or tea. What would you like to prefer? You can put it in chat box and you can also unmute yourself. Coffee or tea? Your answers are invited. The next one is books or movies. What would you like to have? Would you like to read books or would you like to have movies? Yeah, Mohan sir said coffee, tea, Payal ma'am books. Okay, the next one is summer or winter. Which do you like the most? Tulma, coffee, summer, winter. Yes. The next one is mountains or beach. Beach, Ananya ma'am said beach. Priya ma'am said beach. Mountains, Pupu sir. Hemlata ma'am said beach. Okay. The last one is dogs or cats. Dogs. None. Okay. Okay. So some people have none out of dogs or cats. Okay. Okay. Got it. So thank you all for your participation. So by this activity, what we see is you have your own choices based on your needs. What do you want? You want coffee according to your interest. You want to read books or you want to watch movies. So according to your interest and your needs, you have some choice, right? So students also have some sort of needs according to their learning style. Learning style is something, the way by which they learn, right? So students also have some different kind of needs, different kind of things they require to learn. So these are called as diverse learners. So here we will discuss what are diverse learners. So basically diverse learners, students who have their students which have different kind of learning abilities, different interests, different backgrounds. So these are called diverse learners. So basically when students have different needs, so we in our teaching method we have to serve them different approaches so that we can fulfill the needs of maximum students in learning. So basically there are two kind of learners based on their learning style. First is learner based on learning styles, and second is learners with special needs. So diverse learners, you also have some sort of like experience with students. How do they learn and how do they react to things in classroom? So I would like to ask from you that what different learners have you seen in your classroom based on their learning styles? So your answers are invited. आप unmute भी कर सकते हैं. You can also put a comment in the chat box. What kind of learners you see in your classroom? Like what is their learning style? How do they learn? Have you feel any kind of difference in their learning styles? The discussion chat will be open, and you can also said and tell it, discuss it later on. So moving on, students have different kind of like learning style, the way they learn. So we will discuss. Mohan sir said that kinesthetic learners. Yes, sir. We are going to discuss it soon. Yeah. So learners based on learning style. What is learning style? The way they learn. First is visual learner. Some students the way they learn is visual, like they learn visually. So what is included in visual? Visual means watching pictures, videos, diagrams, symbols, etc. So these are visual learners. The second one is auditory learners, the learners who learn by hearing, by saying repetitive things, by speaking, by listening again and again. So these are auditory learners. The third one is what Mohan sir mentioned, kinesthetic learners. So kinesthetic means body movement. So the students who learn by body movement are kinesthetic learners. For example, hands-on activities. They are performing some like drama or action or project. They are making project. They are doing some activity. They are making a diagram, or they are doing something else. So these are kinesthetic learners. The next is read-write learners. So there are students who like to read, who like to study, who like to write after reading. So these are read-write learners. They prefer reading text, writing them, writing again and again. And the last one is like slow learners. Slow learners are the learners who need a kind of some sort of, we can say, repetition of tasks. They learn, they need time to digest an information and then process it. They need more time than other students to complete the task and understand it completely. So these are called as slow learners. The next is learners with special needs, and learners in special needs. The first one is gifted learners. Sometimes in your classroom, you observe that some students finish their work like quickly, very quickly, they complete their work. So these students come into the category of gifted learners. They learn quickly, they need challenging tasks, they do the tasks at the earliest, ask deep question, and they don't like repetitive tasks. So these are gifted learners. The second one is students with learning disabilities, who have learning disability, like they struggle in reading, they struggle in writing, they struggle in like understanding numbers, in understanding concepts. So these are students with learning disabilities. Next one is students with physical disability, like who cannot see, cannot hear it properly, partial hearing, or such kind of like aids they require to fulfill their needs. The next one is English language learners. So these learners are like face struggle with understanding English speaking, or they need some kind of like help of translation to understand the text or comprehension. The next one is economically disadvantaged learners. So these learners have some lack of resources, like they can have resources of like books, uniforms, and other support at home. And due to this, they also feel less confident in the classroom, and they also show absence due to this. Now, these are broadly two kind of learners that we have discussed. Now, I want to ask you that have you come across any kind of these kind of special need learners in your classroom? And if yes, how do you approach them? You can also put it into the chat box that how do you deal with the learners with special needs in your classroom. And you can also mention if you have no special need learners in your classroom. So yes, definitely, we see a different kind of learners who have special needs, like who needs hearing aids or something else in classroom, or special kind of support, who cannot like stand, who cannot like walk, or something else. So definitely, every teacher have a different kind of way to deal with the students. So here is a similar case study here. You need to like read it carefully. Read it. In a government school in rural Bihar, two class 3 teachers, Miss Sunita and Mr. Ramesh, recently taught the topic part of the plant. Both had similar student group, limited resources, and the same textbook. However, their teaching approaches were very different. Now, let us see how it is different. First of all, let's see how Miss Sunita approached the classroom. She taught by reading directly from the textbook, explained plant parts using a diagram on the blackboard, and asked students to memorize definitions. Okay, you got the approach by Miss Sunita. Now let's discuss the approach by Mr. Ramesh. He taught the same lesson differently. How? Showed real leaves to the students, displayed a large handmade plant chart with labeled parts. Then he introduced a very simple, like fun poem using claps and accents, so that students could sing along. And then he organized a leaf a rubbing activity where students use crayons and paper to create impressions of different kind of leaves. So here is the case study, two teachers, Ms. Sunita and Mr. Ramesh. So both of them have different teaching approach toward the students, right? So I would like to ask you that which teacher's approach is more effective here and why? Anyone want to answer this? That which teacher's approach you felt more effective and engaging? Okay, so moving forward, based upon our observations, Miss Sunita classroom was really effective. Like we can say, sorry, Mr. Ramesh classroom was really effective in comparison to Miss Sunita. How? Because he what he included in his classroom is like kind of activities, a real leaves, plant chart with poem with actions and other things. And when we measure the scores of the two teachers, like after test, the first teaching methodology, the students scored 48%, and in the second approach they scored 78%. Like this, they showed an improvement of 30%. So clearly, Miss Sunita approach was good, okay, but students were passive there. They were not that much actively engaged. But in Mr. Ramesh approach, the students were confident. They were more engaging. They were performing tasks by them, and all of their senses were engaged there, right? So next one is. We can say now here concept comes of multimodal learning. Like what is multimodal learning? Multimodal learning is a concept in which all the senses, or more than we can say one sense, is involved in learning. So this learning approach is called multimodal learning. And studies also support this approach by saying that what NCERT says, that 85% of students benefit when more than one sense is involved in learning, like touching, like doing things, like when senses are involved, like hearing, like watching, they are doing things by their own. And then Fleming's work model also said that 65% of learners are visual, 30% are auditory, and 5% are kinesthetic learners. We have discussed them all, and we can say by engaging all the senses, we can address the learning style or the learning all the learners, right? Okay, so moving ahead, multimodal teaching modalities. From here, my colleague Shweta will take forward the session. So I would like Shweta to carry this forward. Over to you, Shweta.
Thank you, Suman. And hello, teachers. Good evening. So till now, I think you got a rough idea about what is multimodal learning or multimodal methods, and what are the different multimodal modalities, teaching styles in students, or learning abilities in students. So now we will go ahead in more depth about understanding how we can teach these diverse learners. So what are the different methods, multimodal teaching modalities? So let's go ahead with this. In the meantime, like teachers, you have any doubts till now, whatever you have, we have discussed here? Okay, let's move ahead. So firstly, again, we will have a small discussion. Mention a method or a strategy that you might have used in class and that has made the diverse learners actually learn more effectively. You felt that they were learning better when you taught them in this method, in a particular method. Any teacher would like to share their experience? It can be relating. It can be relating to any of the multimodal learning styles or multimodal methods. So keep thinking, teachers. Like maybe whenever you get an idea about it, we can always discuss it later. You can raise your hands and also discuss it here. So multimodal teaching strategies, as Suman ma'am earlier discussed about diverse learners, there are of two types, learners with different learning styles. So we will talk about how we can use different teaching methods here. What are the different teaching strategies, multimodal strategies that can be used when we come across students with different learning styles? And I'm sure a classroom will always be filled with students of different learning styles. So let's see how we can meet their needs. So we have already discussed five different learning styles. So first one is visual. So as we discussed earlier, visual learners are the students who learn more effectively. Their learning is more effective, their comprehension is very high, and understanding the subjects is very high when they see the things, when they see the concept, rather than just reading or listening to the teacher, what she is teaching. So here such learners are called visual learners, and the way they can be taught, the method that can be used is visual method. And for example, like images, diagrams, charts, and also videos, we can incorporate technology. So videos also can be used here. So next set of learning style we came across was auditory. So here they are the students who learn more effectively when they are hearing to the concepts rather than just seeing or doing an activity. More effectively they will learn when they also listen to the concepts, so their hearing skills are very strong. So here sounds, music, lot of discussions, even the teaching, what the teacher does, oral teaching, so and also listening to any recordings. So in all these ways the auditory learners can be their learning needs can be addressed. So similarly, the next learning style we came across was kinesthetic learners. These are the children who like to learn through activities, who like to actually feel the concept, understand the concept by uh, doing an activity and seeing how the concept works there. So that is, it can be through movement, touch, and any kind of hands-on activities, projects, etc. So they are basically learners by doing activities. So kinesthetic method is used for such learners. Then we have the reading writing learners, for whom the verbal method, multimodal method, can be used here. Verbal is basically reading and writing. So such students require a lot of reading of the concepts and maybe even writing of the concepts. Only then their learning is very high. So we can address such students by giving them more of reading and writing activities. And finally, we have slow learners. So teachers will also know like how we address the slow learners. It's mainly through a lot of repetition, give them the repetition of the concept, and then making them practice the concept either by writing or reading it several times. Or you can also give the concept stepwise to them, give them some special simplified worksheets. So basically give them more and more time than the other students to complete any tasks. So this is how we can like address the learners with different learning styles through multimodal teaching methods like visual, auditory, kinesthetic, verbal, and slow learners. In the same way, we also can address the students with special needs. So before that, there is a small activity for you, hoping that you will actively participate here and respond by raising hand or again in the chat box. So guess the right multimodal method. It's very simple and you've been doing all these things. Yes, Mehul Singh. So the first one is flashcards. Mehul sir, would you like to answer? So flashcard is like what kind of a multimodal method? Where does it suit? Visual, auditory? Yes, Mehul, you can Mehul sir, you can unmute and speak.
Ma'am, network issue.
Yeah, I didn't get you, sir. Visual. Uh, Tasur ma'am, yeah. Okay. The next one is singing a multiplication song. Mohan sir, I think the answer is for the first one or for the second one, singing a multiplication song. Yes, audio. Thank you, sir. Auditory learners. Building a model of a house. What kind of learners does this activity help? Kinesthetic. Yeah. And then writing answers in notebook. So yeah, this is verbal, read or write. So this is just like a recap of the previous slide that we discussed. Thank you, teachers, for participation. We'll go ahead with the multimodal teaching strategy for learners with special needs. So we also discussed earlier the learners with special needs, again 5 of them. The first one is gifted learners. These are the learners who are very active learners and they need more challenging and high order thinking concepts and activities for them to be engaged in the class. So otherwise, the children are very much distracted in the class. They might be disturbing the students because they feel they already know what teacher is teaching. So they don't focus, they don't concentrate, and they start disturbing the other students also. So such children who are highly intelligent and they have excessive knowledge beyond the class level also, I think those students should be engaged in a much smart way. They should be given a lot of other activities relating to the same concept so that they are engaged. So such a teaching strategy that involves these gifted learners should be very high order for them. The next category is students with learning disabilities. So students with learning disabilities, for example, we have seen the movie Tare Zameen Par, wherein they have the child has dyslexia. So like this, we have dysgraphia, dyscalculia. So like this, we have different learning disorders. So to address these disorders, if particularly the child has a particular disorder, it should be identified, and then accordingly, the teaching should be personalized to enhance the learning of that particular child. And one thing is for very sure, learners with special needs are not maximum in number when compared to learners with different learning styles. So here, these 5 kind of learners, we might find 1, 2, or even it can be 0 also. The next is students with physical disabilities. So these children are children who are physically challenged. They might be physically handicapped. Some kind of struggle physically they will be having, and it will be interrupting their learning. So with such students, the learning should incorporate some teaching aids and methods or tools which are specifically designed for such students, and then the teaching should be imparted in the classroom. So if you have any physical disability students, then coming to English language learners, definitely I think every class will have 2 to 3 English language learners. It means that they are the first generation learners, so they need to be given a lot of support in understanding English, otherwise they will not pick up the concept. So it can be through bilingual teaching. You can teach them with the regional language and then teach in English also, so that they pick up the language as well as understand the concepts in the required language, that is English. And next, coming to economically disadvantaged learners. So probably this group of learners also will be there in the classroom, rather than burdening them or the parents with some um costly activities or something wherein a lot of investments has to be done. Maybe a teacher can find some alternatives for these children, and so that they will happily participate and they will feel included in the classroom. So all affordable kind of materials and activities can be like planned for this section of students. So these are the different multimodal methods or teaching strategies we can follow in the class based on the learning styles or based on the learners with special needs. So again, an activity, guess the right multimodal method for the special needs student. So listening to a recorded lesson with subtitles, so which kind of special need can be addressed here? So it is physically disabled. Probably he might be deaf or impaired hearing will be there, difficulty in hearing. Using bilingual flashcards, we already discussed. English language learners. Solving a real life problem using online research. For what kind of children do you think we can give this activity? I think everyone knows, that's why they're silent. Yeah, gifted, exactly, sir. And then tracing letters in sand using blocks for numbers, or using blocks for numbers, yeah. Learning disabilities. Okay. Thank you, teachers, for active participation. Let's go ahead. So how do we modify instruction using the multimodal methods or strategies? So you have a particular kind of a learner. So what kind of a learning method is used for them? How we can modify or improvise our methods is what we're going to discuss here with an example also. And why we have to modify our instruction is because we have to address the different learning styles in the classroom. We cannot teach in the same way for all the students. Then you will find a lot of passive learning, like we saw in the first case study. I think it's Anita ma'am, like, who was teaching with only one method, and most of the students became like passive. They were not actively involved in the class. Then improve comprehension and retention. This is one more reason why we have to introduce multimodal instruction in the classroom. Next is boost the student engagement in the classroom. So engage all kind of learners than have any chaos or destruction in the classroom. We have to have multimodal teaching. Also, we have to promote equality or equity in learning, so that all kind of learners can understand the concept equally. So we have to promote that, and that can happen through teaching through multimodal methods. Next is bridging learning gaps. So suppose there are students who have not understood the concepts, and you're teaching the higher end, the next part of the concepts, then that gap has to be fulfilled. And that can happen when you are using multimodal methods. And then encouraging deeper learning. This happens when we use multimodal strategies or methods. And support inclusion, definitely. So all kind of students, whether they are financially disadvantaged, or you have physically challenged students, English learners, early English learners. So all kind of students, we can make them feel inclusive and part of the class. So this is the reason why we need to modify our instruction, so that everybody, equal learning happens with all students. So how are we going to do this? So we will see, like, one by one according to the learning style. So the first one, visual learners. Usually the multimodal method that we use for teaching the visual learners, it is major is visually, and sometimes we use some verbal methods also. So it's usually a mix. So how we can modify this? So visually we mean like usually in the class what we end up doing, the image in the textbook, or maybe we do a simple drawing on the board, and that's it. But you can try different ways of engaging the visual learners. Like you can use charts, videos, you can use color coded notes. Also, you can use written instructions. Sometimes a teacher gives 10 to 20 instructions in the class of how to be in the class, how to go out of the class, some classroom rules maybe, so, or in any other matter also. So rather than just orally telling, visual learners will understand. You can write it and write it on the board, or write and give it, or put it on the chart, and they will read and they will understand the things better and follow those things in a much better way. So for example, if we take up the topic parts of a plant, so what a visual learner can do, show a diagram of a plant with labels. To show this diagram, she can have a chart, or she can have a visual, a video, anything in different ways. This can be done for visual learners. Next, when we, with the same topic, we want to engage auditory learners, the multimodal method that we have to use, definitely it is auditory. And then how to improvise it, how to modify it, not just by teaching orally to the students, but by having a lot of discussions in the class, read alouds, making the students read read the concepts aloud, or the teacher reading it aloud, audio recordings of the concept, then giving some verbal clues, like teacher is giving the clues orally and the child is trying to answer. So this is how auditory learners can be supported. Example, again, for parts of a plant, maybe if it's a lower class, through a rhyme. Higher classes also will enjoy this if you're able to include, like roots hold tight, leaves need light. Create your own rhyme also, and you can introduce it in the class for auditory learners. So it will be fun also, and they will learn the concept also. They will know about the roots, the leaves, what they require, etc. Everything will be learned in the form of a rhyme. Next is kinesthetic learners. Again, we know the multimodal method that we regularly use for such learners is kinesthetic. So how we can do it differently is through role plays, experiments, using some manipulatives, like giving them some things wherein they can manipulate it, or giving an activity where they can manipulate things and then come to a conclusion, and movement breaks. Kinesthetic learners are highly energetic, and they cannot sit in one place for a long duration. So probably a teacher can give some short movement breaks in the classroom. Maybe you can make them stand, turn around, or walk around in the class, take a 2-minute break and come back to the class. So something like that, the kinesthetic learners will be motivated to continue the class. So for example, with in parts of a plant, you can actually, for kinesthetic learners, you can introduce, bring a real plant into the classroom and make them learn. So now again, teachers, you must be thinking, how will I only bring one plant for only kinesthetic learners and not give that plant to other students? Or how will I tell the rhyme only for auditory students and not for visual? How will I compartmentalize such children? No, you need not do that. You only need to observe what kind of students are there in your class. Do you have visual, auditory? Usually it will be a mix of class. So why don't you come out with creative activities wherein you're touching the visual learners also, auditory learners also, kinesthetic learners also, read and write learners also. So have your classroom, have your lesson plan created in such a way that all these modalities or methods are included, and in a very creative and different way, wherein the deeper learning of the concepts will happen. So for read write learners, that is verbal learners, verbal method is used here, and you can use it in a different way rather than just the textbook. You can give handouts, extra notes, note taking, give them assignments, ask the students to research something and bring the information about that. And most commonly, use of textbooks also. So how you can do it for a parts of a plant? Show give a paragraph of a plant, about a plant, ask them to read, and since some may be some like writing also, you can make them write the paragraph or what they have understood, and also ask them to draw a neat label diagram. So basically incorporate a mixed method, multimodal method. That is why we call it as multimodal method, not just sticking to one method of teaching. And then slow learners, definitely for them you have to use it can be a mixed learning for them, because they can be any kind of visual learner or auditory, kinesthetic, or reader, right? So for them, basically the teaching has to go slow. Maybe for this set of students, you can again have a separate a special worksheet, or have some flashcards for them, show it step by step, and make them learn about the parts of the plant. So in the same way, how do we do multimodal teaching for students with special needs? So for gifted learners, you give them enrich, usually it's again a mixed method for them. And basically whatever activities you incorporate in your lesson plan and for the classroom, it should have a lot of enrichment activities, high order thinking tasks, and independent projects also. Maybe for these one or two students, you can uh, give a special project also for them to work on. And then how you can do it through parts of a plant example. Maybe you can ask these students to research about why do desert plants have thick stems. Maybe this is not concept is not there in the lesson you're teaching. You can give them something out of the textbook and ask them to research. So when they come back with this research, they'll be very enthusiastic in giving their displaying or presenting their research report to the class, and that will keep them engaged in the classroom. Then students with learning disabilities, again, they can learn, they can be taught through mixed methods. And more important for this is a lot of remedial support has to be given, give them modified materials as suitable according to their learning disability. Then multisensory teaching has to be done, and also giving them extra time. So example with parts of a plant, maybe you're using a multisensory method here, then you're giving a clay and asking them to create a plant and make label the parts of the plant there. Students with physical disabilities, so definitely some technical support has to be given to such students. Suppose he's blind, then a braille text has to be used for them. So in this way, so all the assistive devices should be provided by the school, or talk to the parents and make arrangements for them. If he's a physically handicapped child, then you should design the classroom in such a way that the students can bring in their wheelchairs, etc. So all such kind of arrangements has to be done. And the next one is English language learners. So again, any mixed model method can be used. So again, give them bilingual support, visual aids, then teach them in the simple language. Focus lots on vocabulary, learning the new words. Focus on these children with these aspects. For example, using bilingual flashcards when you're teaching the parts of the plant. So you're teaching about roots, you can also write it in the language they understand also, and explain things to them. Economically disadvantaged, as we already discussed, so they need a lot of emotional support, free materials, or even if the school is providing meals, as that can be an advantage for them. And creating an inclusive environment, so providing them ways in which they feel included in the class. For example, here you'll be using for such children not a model of a plant which is bought from the market or something, but it's like a real plant from the schoolyard itself. It can be picked up, like need not tell the students to purchase a plant and get it to the school and all that. So in this way, their needs can be addressed through modifying the instructions in a much improved way. So any doubts, teachers, still here? I know it's a very simple concept. Okay, let's see how we can have a lesson plan which includes these different modalities. So multimodal lesson planning. So it's basically a lesson plan having all the modalities, which is through which the teaching happens, and all the students are better engaged and learn in a better way in the class. So a multimodal lesson actually can use at least 3 to 4 different learning methods in their lesson plan. So we can at least follow the 3 model rule here, which means at least 3 modalities to be included whenever you teach any concept in the class. One is a visual modality, next one is auditory modality, and third one is a physical or activity based, that is the kinesthetic learning. So these 3 things at least minimum you can incorporate in your lessons, and see whether you have different kind of learners, then try to incorporate some kind style of teaching for them also. For example, instead of just telling the students about water conservation, so do it through a visual demonstration, an audio demonstration, and also an activity. So wherein all kind of diverse learners can be included. So I will be showing you a multimodal lesson plan format. So this will be shared in the group also. So you can just design your lesson plan or keep in mind these things when you're going to teach the lesson through multimodal lesson planning. This is for class 5, subject EVS, topic water conservation, duration 40 minutes. You have set your learning objectives here. That is what they have to learn at the end of the class. And what modalities you want to include here. Here I have used 4. At least stick to 3 modalities, or any other things you can add also, you can add to it. So we have columns for the lesson flow. So what the lesson segment, like what we are doing in the class, activity, how you're going to do it, modality used, which modality are we using while doing this particular segment, and the resources or materials used. So introduction is there, then concept teaching is there, how you're teaching the concept, then practice activity, how you're doing, review or assessment, how you're doing, and the closure of the lesson. In the same way, we have multimodal lesson for grade 3. A sample is there. And in the same way, I have given an example for grade 1, which is a mathematics multimodal lesson plan. You can refer this and design your own lesson plan accordingly, and you can implement in the classroom. So this will help you prepare your lesson in advance and include all different modalities of teaching in your classroom. So this can happen. So this is about a multimodal lesson plan, how it can be designed or created. So any doubts still here, teachers? Anything you want to know? Or you want to share something? Okay. So till here we saw like we need to focus on the diverse learners, the different kind of diverse learners, how they actually learn, what are the how we can modify instructions to teach these diverse learners and make the classroom engaging, interesting, and inclusive also. Fine, all this is done, but at the end of it, you should also, a teacher should also check whether whatever multimodal teaching has happened in the classroom, whatever students have learned through this multimodal method, what is the effect of that? To what level the learning has improved. So for this, some small assessments you can do, checking you can do in the classroom. So that is what we are going to discuss here under assessing multimodal learning effectiveness. Yeah, so that is what we have discussed, how to make test how or find out whether whatever method you have used is helping the students learn, stay engaged, and understand better. Are you going on the right path, or you need to again improvise your ways? So this is how you have to do it. Why we have to do it is definitely to check if students are really understanding the lesson, to see which method works best again, okay, and then to improve teaching accordingly, and then to make sure all types of learners are included. So for these reasons, you have to assess the teaching effectiveness. How we are going to do it? Different assessing methods, and these are very simple and understandable also. Student observation, wherein you observe how students are participating, etc. Then quick formative assessments. So as and when you're teaching in the class, you can give some small quizzes, and at the end of the class, some exit tickets, exit questions can be given. So in this way, formative assessments, step by step on during the class itself, you can just check whether they have understood the concept. Next is student feedback. Yeah, this is also very important to see how effective your assessment is. You can ask students feedback, like how the lesson was. Now, orally, it's very difficult to ask maybe for a teacher, and it will take time also. So you can give a written format for them, like to express their views about the class and the teaching method. And next one is review of student work. So once you have given a homework or an activity or something, so when the student presents the work to you, writes down the answers or any task you have given, completes it. So when you review it, you will get to know if he's able to answer it in a right way, then definitely your teaching method is effective. So I will show you a template on these assessment methods, how you can actually track or assess the students. So student observation tool is here with student name, participating in the activity, yes or no, focused, yes or no, responding positively, yes or no, and some notes of each student. So you can have a sheet here wherein you can add student's name and check these things. This is just for a record for you, and also to see how your methods are effective, or does it require improvement. Quick formative assessment, we have given an example here, exit ticket. It's nothing but once the class is ending, you give few questions or some activity to the students. They have to complete it and leave the class. Then you review that work and you will get to know whether the students have understood the concept. So that is an example given here. Next, the third one is student feedback. It's a reflection card. You can have a chart like this, maybe on the wall for that particular class. You can create the chart beforehand and get it, or you can create small slips and give it to the students, or your own way you can think of how to get a feedback on your uh, on the effectiveness of the class. So you can have some chart like this wherein there's a question. Did this activity help you learn? What was it fun and engaging for you? So do you want to try this method again? And then you can have options for them to tick with a smiley, or tick a straight face means they are okay with it, and the sad face means they didn't understand. Based on this, you can improvise your teaching methods. And review of student work, student name, what task was given to them, accuracy, whether they maintained that, creative expression is there, and can they explain it? Whenever you ask the concept, are they able to explain it? So if you're able to check these things once a while, maybe you can't do it every time for every class. Once a while, somewhere you feel you can do it. So you can have a small assessment to check the effectiveness of the learning in the classroom. So any doubts here, teachers? This template also will be shared in the group. Coming to a small discussion here, a case study. So this is the final part of our session now. So Mr. Samir is a teacher and he is teaching types of animals in the class 5 using different modalities, that is different teaching methods. He showed animal pictures and played animal sounds. Students acted like animals by jumping like a frog or flying like a bird, and also wrote the names of animals in their notebooks. So these are the three things they did. Most students enjoyed the lesson, but a child with hearing difficulty missed out on the animal sounds, though he actively participated in the acting activity. Right. So now I have few questions for you. So feel free to think on this and you can reply. Which modalities did Mr. Samir use in the classroom? Which teaching method to address the learning or diverse learners did he use in the classroom? You can name them: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. In this particular scenario, which modality did he use? Then we have the next question. How did multimodal strategies help most students? How do you think it helped them? What made them be engaged in the class? Then how can he include the child with hearing difficulty more effectively? And how can he check if students truly understood types of animals, maybe, and assessing it whether the teaching modality, the multimodal lesson teaching was effective or not? How can he check? So you can think over these 4 responses. You can unmute and discuss also, or you want to share something about your classroom relating to diverse learners, any situation, any experience that you had. How did you address the challenges there? Anything you want to share, you can go ahead also. Okay, so which modalities did Mr. Samir use in the class? So he used visual, he used auditory, he used kinesthetic, he used read and writing. Showing animal pictures, it is visual. Played animal sounds, auditory. students acted like animals by jumping like a frog or flying like a bird is kinesthetic. And then also wrote the names of animals in their notebooks. What kind of modality is this? What kind of learning is this? Verbal, that is read or write. Then how did multimodal strategies help most students? So you can see that it is said that most students, they enjoyed the lesson. It means that they remained engaged in the classroom. So they were engaged how? Through pictures, sounds, actions, writing. So like all the students in the class were engaged. So with this, we can say that the teaching helped most students. How can he include the child with hearing difficulty most effectively? He can do that because he can't hear the sounds, right? So what he can do, he can use flashcards, or he can use words or pictures of that animal being acted, or something like that, and then the child will be able to at least see and understand, not just by hearing the sounds, but he can see and understand about the animal. Or here a buddy system also can be used, wherein the child can be partnered with another student, and that student keeps supporting the student with the hearing disability. So in this way also we can give support, because all the time teacher cannot be involved giving support to and like addressing each and every student. So buddy system, like buddy pairing, helps here. And how can he check if students truly understood the types of animals? Yeah, he can do some checking in between, like ask some questions about the subject, and this is how it can be done. Or maybe student observation, or the different ways, assessing ways which we discussed, that can be used here. Okay. Hoping that all the teachers have like got an idea about multimodal learning. Any questions you have? So next week we will be having another session. So hopefully all the teachers will be updating you about the topic and the session timing, everything next week. So please do attend, teachers. Anything, any questions anybody has? Summary of this session today. Multimodal learning involves using more than one senses. We talked about what is multimodal learning, what are the different senses we address here. And this approach helps, this multimodal learning approach, it helps students or supports students with who are diverse learners. And diverse learners are, like, we have categorized them as under two sections: the learners with different learning styles, and learners with special needs. Then we also saw how we can create a 3-model lesson plan. So including at least 3 very common and useful modalities, that is visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. The rest, it all depends on what kind of students you have in the classroom. And then case studies also, we saw some very interesting case studies. Maybe you must have faced in the class also. And we showed that how multimodal teaching, it helps in enhancing the scores of the students and increasing the student participation, etc. And then we also saw how teacher can use some very simple methods to assess the effectiveness of multimodal teaching that has happened in the classroom. So thank you, teachers, for your active participation. Once the feedback is done, you can we can close the session.